Welcome back to another episode of Valuable Coins, where we dive deep into the world of numismatics, uncovering the most valuable and unique coins in the market today. If you're a coin enthusiast, collector, or simply interested in the incredible value of rare coins, you're in the right place. In today's video, we will explore two of the most fascinating and expensive United States coins currently circulating the auction market. First up, the 1927D. Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny. This coin features the D Mint mark, was struck at the Denver Mint, and is found in good condition with some scratches. Whether you're a coin enthusiast or simply curious about what your old pennies are worth, this video will guide you through everything you need to know about this particular .some Lincoln cent. Let's start with a little historical context. The 1927D. Lincoln Wheat Penny was minted during a time when the United States was still enjoying the economic prosperity of the Roaring '20s. Even though the country hadn't yet fallen into the Great Depression, money was still valued carefully, and coin designs like the Lincoln cent remain simple yet iconic. The obverse of the coin showcases a right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Around the edge of the coin, you'll see the familiar inscriptions "In God We Trust" at the top, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1927 to the right. Just beneath the date, the small D Mint mark identifies this coin as a product of the Denver Mint. The reverse side of the penny features two stylized wheat stalks bordering the inscriptions, 1 cent and United States of America, with the phrase E pluribus unum above all, part of the classic wheat penny design that was in use from 1909 to 1958. In terms of mintage, the Denver Mint struck 27,170,000 Lincoln cents in 1927. That figure is relatively moderate compared to other years in the wheat penny series. And while the 1927D is not considered extremely rare, it's certainly less common than later-date wheat pennies from the 1940s and 1950s. Coins from the 1920s are now closing in on 100 years old, and examples in collectible condition are always in demand from collectors seeking to complete early Lincoln sets. Now let's talk about condition. The coin you have is described as being in good condition with some scratches. In coin grading terms, good is one of the lower circulated grades, often abbreviated as G4. A coin in this grade will show significant wear, and many of the finer details will be worn smooth from circulation. Lincoln's outline will still be visible, but the hair, jaw, and cheek details will be heavily worn. The reverse will have flattened wheat stalks and smooth fields. Still, the date, mint mark, and key inscriptions remain readable, which is important for identifying and valuing the coin. The scratches on your coin are a common sign of circulation, while minor surface scratches are expected in older coins. Deeper or heavy damage can reduce a coin's value further, depending on location and severity. However, collectors who are focused on assembling full-day tanned mint sets often accept lower-grade coins for harder-to-find years, especially if they're on a budget or working toward a complete historical set. The composition of the 1927D wheat penny is 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, typical for all Lincoln cents made before 1943. Over time, copper coins can develop a brown or reddish tone depending on storage and exposure to moisture or air. Some collectors prefer coins with more original red color, but circulated examples are usually found in brown or darker shades. Now, let's move on to market value. A 1927D Lincoln Wheat Penny in good condition with average wear and scratches typically sells for $1.25 to $2 in today's market. The value may vary slightly depending on demand, the specific appearance of your coin, and whether a buyer is looking for that particular date and mint mark. In higher grades like fine, very fine, or extra fine, the value increases significantly in extra fine condition. The coin could fetch around $8 to $12 or more, and in uncirculated mint state condition, values can range from $40 to $150 or more, depending on luster and color. Because your coin is in good condition with scratches, its value will stay toward the lower end of the price spectrum. But it's still far above face value and represents a valuable piece of numismatic history. It's a coin with character, worn by time, passed through countless hands, and still a part of American heritage nearly 100 years later. Finally, collectors should always keep an eye out for any die errors or varieties, even on older coins. While there are no major known errors specific to the 1927D issue, it's always worth inspecting for doubling on the date or mint mark, misaligned strikes, or repunched mint marks, all of which could enhance the coin's value. In conclusion, your 1927D Lincoln Wheat Penny, with its D mint mark, good condition, and some scratches, holds both historical and collectible value. In today's episode, we're examining another interesting coin from the Washington Quarter series, the 1988 Washington Quarter Dollar with a D mint mark. A silver-like appearance, and described as being in bad condition with visible scratches. Whether you're a casual collector, a beginner, or someone who just found this coin in your change, we'll break down its background, composition, and what it might be worth in today's market. Let's start with a quick overview of the Washington Quarter. First introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. This coin quickly became a permanent part of U.S. coinage. The obverse of the coin features a portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. You'll see the inscriptions, "Liberty in God We Trust," and the date in this case, 1988. The reverse design shows a proud bald eagle standing on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath, symbolizing both strength and peace. Now, let's talk about your specific coin, a 1988 Washington Quarter with a D mint mark. That mint mark stands for the Denver Mint, which was one of the primary mints producing quarters during this era. In 1988 alone, the Denver Mint struck over 596 million Washington quarters. That means this particular year and mint combination is not rare. It was mass-produced for circulation and is still very commonly found today. Next, we'll address one of the most frequently asked questions: is this coin made of silver? While your coin may have a silver-like appearance, it is not made of silver. The last circulating U.S. quarters made of 90% silver were struck in 1964. Since 1965, all regular issue quarters for circulation have been made from a copper nickel clad composition that's a core of solid copper with an outer layer of copper and nickel. This blend gives the coin a silvery look, but there's no actual silver content in a 1988 quarter. Now let's move on to the condition. You've described this coin as being in bad condition with scratches. In coin grading terms, bad condition usually refers to a coin that's heavily worn, with significant loss of detail. Washington's portrait may be faint, the date may be partially faded, and the reverse side might have flat or smooth areas where the eagle's feathers once were. On top of that, scratches and discoloration further reduce the coin's visual appeal and collector interest. When it comes to value, condition matters a lot. Collectors typically look for coins in excellent and circulated condition, especially those with sharp details, full rims, and no visible damage. Unfortunately, a heavily circulated coin with scratches and wear, like yours, is generally valued at face value, which is 25 cents. Even though it's part of a beloved and widely collected series, the 1988D Washington Quarter is simply too common and too worn in this case to carry a premium. However, there are a few rare exceptions. In any year of coinage, era coins can slip through. These include double strikes, off-center strikes, missing elements, or incorrect planchettes. For 1988 quarters, some known era varieties exist, and these can be quite valuable depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. If you notice anything unusual about your coin, like doubled letters, a strange edge, or off-center design, it could be worth taking to a professional or certified coin dealer for a closer look. You might also wonder if discoloration or a toned surface adds any value. In most cases, especially for lower-grade coins, discoloration or surface changes due to oxidation, dirt, or damage do not increase the value. If the toning is unattractive or uneven, it usually detracts from the coin's desirability. Some collectors do appreciate naturally toned coins when they're visually appealing and on higher-grade coins. But that's not often the case for heavily circulated examples. In today's auction market, coins like this one, a 1988D Washington quarter, in circulated or bad condition, typically sell for face value, unless bundled in rolls, bulk lots, or themed sets. Online listings often show these coins priced at 25 to 50 cents, but that price usually includes shipping or bulk packaging. Standalone value for a single circulated coin rarely exceeds $1 unless it has a rare mint error or is in pristine condition. To sum things up, your 1988 Washington quarter with D mint mark may look silver, but it is not silver. It's a copper nickel-clad coin, produced in large numbers at the Denver Mint and very common in circulation. Given that it's in bad condition with visible scratches, it's considered a low-grade coin and typically worth about 25 cents. Its face value. While it may not be worth a fortune, it still has value as a piece of U.S. history and is part of a long-running and popular coin series. Next up, the 1945 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark. This coin is in fine condition, showing some signs of circulation and a few scratches, but still holds both historical importance and collector interest. If you've come across one of these coins in your pocket change, a family collection, or your own coin jar, you may be wondering just how much it's worth today. Let's take a closer look. The 1945 Lincoln wheat penny was minted during the final year of World War II, a time when the United States was fully focused on the war effort. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for over 3 decades, and its design remained unchanged, a tribute to President Abraham Lincoln, who was the first real person ever featured on a U.S. coin in general circulation. Designed by Victor Che. David Brenner, the obverse of the coin shows a profile of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his head are the words "In God We Trust." To the left, you'll see the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date 1945, since this coin doesn't have a mint mark. We know it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which didn't add a mint mark to its coins at that time. On the reverse side of the coin, you'll find the classic wheat penny design, 2 stylized wheat stalks curving along the edges, with the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America in the center. The Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, appears at the top. This simple yet elegant design was used on Lincoln cents from 1909 until 1958, making these coins iconic among collectors. Now let's talk about the coin's condition. Your 1945 wheat penny is described as being in fine condition with some scratches. A coin in fine condition shows moderate wear but retains clear and readable details. On the obverse, Lincoln's facial features and the outlines of his hair and coat should still be visible, although flattened in high points. On the reverse, the wheat stalks will show some detail, but may also be worn and smoothed out. Light scratches are fairly typical for circulated coins and usually do not significantly affect value unless they are deep or disfiguring. The coin is composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the standard alloy used for Lincoln cents at the time. However, it's worth noting that during the war, in 1943, the U.S. experimented with steel pennies to conserve copper for the war effort. By 1945, copper coinage had resumed, and the coin you have is part of that post-steel wartime copper production. The Philadelphia Mint struck an impressive 1,040,515,000 Lincoln cents in 1945. So while the coin is not rare, its historical significance and age give it collector appeal. Let's now consider the market value. As of today, a 1945 Lincoln Wheat penny from Philadelphia in fine condition typically sells for between 15 to 30 cents USD. While this may not seem like much, keep in mind that this is well above the coin's original face value, and higher-grade examples can sell for more. For instance, if this same coin were in extremely fine or uncirculated condition, it could sell anywhere from $1 to $5 or more, depending on color, eye appeal, and overall preservation. That said, there are a few things that could increase the value of any 1945 penny. One is the presence of errors or varieties, such as double dies, repunched mint marks, if from other mints, or off-center strikes. Although errors are more common on some other coins from this era, it's always worth taking a close look with a magnifying glass or under proper lighting to check for anything unusual. If you do find an error, the value could rise significantly, even into the tens or hundreds of dollars for rare varieties. Another factor that can affect value is color and toning. Copper coins change color over time, with uncirculated examples showing a bright reddish tint, while circulated coins range from brown to dark brown. Some collectors favor original red coins, while others enjoy the rich tone of natural brown patina. Your coin, showing scratches and signs of wear, likely falls into the brown color category, which is typical for circulated wheat pennies, despite being a common coin in circulated condition. Your 1945 Lincoln Wheat penny is still a piece of American history. It represents an era of sacrifice, unity, and economic strength during one of the most critical periods in U.S. history. While it may not bring in high dollar values at auction, it carries significant sentimental and educational value, especially for those building complete Lincoln cent collections or just starting their coin collecting journey. Next up, we explore the value, history, and hidden details behind everyday U.S. coins. In this video, we're focusing on a 1972 Washington $quarter coin without a mint mark. It's got a silver-like color, shows signs of extra fine condition, and has a few minor scratches. If you've come across one of these coins and are curious about its composition or value in today's market, stick around as we break it all down in simple, clear terms. Let's start with the basics. The Washington quarter is a long-standing and iconic coin in U.S. history. First introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, the quarter has kept its core design for many decades. On the front or obverse, we see a left-facing profile of George Washington, with the inscriptions, "Liberty in God We Trust," and the year of issue, which in this case is 1972. On the reverse, there's the traditional eagle design, a bald eagle, with wings spread, standing on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing peace and strength. Now, let's talk about the mint mark. The 1972 quarter you're looking at doesn't have a mint mark, which tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1972, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 215 million quarters, making it a fairly common issue in the Washington quarter series. So, while the date might seem old at first glance, this specific coin isn't considered rare. You may notice the coin has a silver-like color, which brings up an important question. Is the 1972 quarter made of silver? The answer is no. While it appears silver in tone, it's not made of precious metal. After 1964, the U.S. Mint stopped using 90% silver in quarters. Beginning in 1965, quarters intended for circulation were produced with a copper-nickel-clad composition. This means there's a solid copper core with outer layers made from a copper-nickel blend, giving it that shiny, silvery appearance. So, while your 1972 coin may look silver, it contains zero actual silver content. Next, let's talk about the condition of your coin. You've described it as being an extra fine condition, which is very good for a coin that's been in circulation for over 50 years. In numismatic terms, extra fine or XF means that most design details are still sharp and visible, though there may be light wear on the high points of the coin, such as Washington's hair or the eagle's feathers. The coin might have lost some of its original mint luster, and minor scratches from handling over the years are expected. Scratches do impact visual appeal slightly, but as long as they're not deep gouges, they typically don't eliminate the coin's collectability at this grade. So, what is a 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark worth today in extra fine condition? In most auction markets and collector circles, these coins usually sell for between 50 cents and $1.50, depending on the buyer's interest and the coin's overall eye appeal. While that might not sound like a fortune, it's certainly more than face value, and for many collectors, finding coins in extra fine or better condition from the early 1970s is still rewarding. Keep in mind that if your coin had a mint error, like doubling, off-center striking, or die cracks, it could be worth significantly more. Some 1972 quarters with noticeable minting errors have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars, depending on how rare or dramatic the error is. So if your coin looks unusual in any way, it might be worth getting it evaluated by a professional coin grader or a reputable dealer. Another thing to consider is demand. Washington quarters, especially those from the pre-statehood series like this 1972 example, are popular with collectors putting together year sets or type collections. An XF 1972 quarter with no mint mark can be appealing to collectors looking for a better-than-average coin for that year. If your coin still has decent luster and sharp details despite some light scratches, it could stand out in a collection. To check real-time value, take a look at recent online auction sales. Sites like eBay often list circulated 1972 quarters in XF condition selling in the $1 range. If you bundle the coin with others or sell it to someone assembling a full set, it might bring a better return. So to summarize, your 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark is a Philadelphia minted coin made of copper nickel, not silver. Its extra fine condition gives it some added value beyond face value, despite the scratches. It's not rare, but it's a solid example of classic U.S. coinage and a nice addition to any collection. Next up, the 1939 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny, without a mint mark, in very fine condition with some light scratches. If you've come across this coin in your collection, or perhaps inherited it from a family member, you might be wondering how much it's worth in today's collector market. Let's explore the coin's background, condition, and value in detail. The 1939 Lincoln wheat penny was minted during a significant period in American history, just before the United States entered World War II. This coin represents not only a piece of everyday currency from the late 1930s, but also a symbol of America's economic and political atmosphere in the years leading up to a global conflict. It's part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series, which began in 1909 and continues in modern form today. The Lincoln wheat penny was designed by Victor David Brenner, and its design remained largely unchanged for nearly 50 years. On the obverse side, we have the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his head is the motto, "In God We Trust," while liberty appears to the left, and the year 1939 is located on the right. Because this coin does not have a mint mark, we know it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not include mint marks on its cents at the time. The reverse side features two stylized wheat stalks curving along the left and right edges of the coin. This is where the coin gets the nickname wheat penny. Between the wheat stalks are the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above those words is the Latin motto E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. This reverse design was used from 1909 through 1958, making wheat pennies highly collectible today. Now, let's talk about condition. Your coin is described as being in very fine condition, with some light scratches. In numismatics, very fine is a mid-grade condition that indicates the coin has moderate wear from circulation, but still retains many of its original details. On the obverse, Lincoln's hair and coat will show visible signs of wear, but key design elements are still well defined. On the reverse, the wheat ears will have visible lines and shape, even if some detail is smoothed out. Scratches, particularly. Light ones are common for coins that have been in circulation for decades. They don't necessarily reduce a coin's value by much, unless the scratches are deep or disrupt major design elements. In your case, since the coin is in otherwise solid, very fine condition, minor scratches will not significantly affect its overall appeal or collector interest. As for composition, the 1939 Lincoln cent is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the standard alloy for cents before the World War II steel penny experiment in 1943. This gives the coin its warm, reddish-brown appearance, though tone can vary depending on how it was stored over the years. Now, let's move on to value. In today's collector market, 1939 Lincoln wheat penny from the Philadelphia Mint in very fine condition generally sells for around 20 to 40 cents. If the coin were in extra fine or uncirculated condition, the price could rise significantly. Anywhere from $1 to $10 or more, depending on the coin's color, eye appeal, and preservation. Proof-like qualities or brilliant red color would also push its value upward. Keep in mind, over 316 million 1939 Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, so it's not considered rare by mintage numbers alone. However, its age, historical, context, and solid condition make it desirable to collectors trying to complete a full set of all of Lincoln wheat cents. From 1909 to 1958, these pre-war coins are often seen as great additions to starter collections and carry educational value as well. Occasionally, collectors come across era varieties that can raise the value of a 1939 penny dramatically. These include doubled die obverses, off-center strikes, or die cracks. If your coin shows any unusual features under magnification, such as doubling of the date or lettering, it could be worth having professionally graded or appraised. Some era pennies from the 1930s have sold for hundreds of dollars, especially when verified by a reputable grading service. Another factor affecting value is color and toning. Lincoln cents can appear red, red-brown, or brown, depending on their original copper tone and exposure to the elements. Your coin, described as having some scratches and being circulated, likely falls in the red-brown to brown range, which is typical for a coin of this age. Next up in this video, we'll take a close look at a 1996 Washington $quarter coin with P Mint mark. It has a silver-colored appearance, is in fine condition, and shows some scratches from circulation. Whether you're a coin collector, a hobbyist, or someone who stumbled upon this coin and got curious, you're in the right place. Let's dive into the background, features, and current value of this interesting piece. First, a little history. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932, originally released to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. This design by sculptor John Flanagan features the first U.S. president on the obverse. You'll see the inscriptions, "Liberty in God We Trust," and the year in this case, 1996. On the reverse, the traditional design shows a bald eagle with wings spread, standing on a bundle of arrows with olive branches underneath, symbolizing both war readiness and peace. Now let's focus on your coin, the 1996 Washington quarter with a P Mint mark. That P indicates that the coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1996, the the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 925 million of these. Quarters. That makes it a very common circulation coin, with no scarcity based on mintage alone. Because of this high mintage, most 1996p quarters found in circulation aren't rare and won't fetch a high premium unless they're in uncirculated or error condition. You mentioned that the coin has a silver appearance. That's a good observation, but it's important to clarify that this coin is not made of silver. Since 1965, the U.S. Mint has used a copper-nickel-clad composition for quarters intended for general circulation. This includes a solid copper core with outer layers of copper and nickel. This gives the coin a shiny, silver-like surface, but there's no real silver content in your 1996 quarter unless it's a special proof version struck in 90% silver. And those were only produced for collectors and are typically found in sets, not in regular circulation. Your coin is in fine condition, which refers to a circulated grade that shows moderate wear but retains clear details of the major design elements. In this condition, you can still see Washington's facial features, hairline, and most of the eagle's body and wings on the reverse. However, there is likely some flattening of high points and light to moderate surface wear. The scratches you mentioned are normal signs of use, especially for a coin that's nearly 3 decades old. As for value, coins in fine condition are considered circulated and are usually valued at face value, which is 25 cents. While collectors prefer higher-grade coins in mint or near-mint state, some may collect circulated examples as part of year sets or to complete albums. In online marketplaces, a single 1996p quarter in fine condition might sell for around 25 to 50 cents, mostly depending on buyer interest and shipping costs. Now, let's touch on the possibility of errors or variations. While 1996 quarters are common, some rare error coins have been discovered, for example, off-center strikes, double dies, or coins struck on the wrong planchette. These error coins can be worth significantly more depending on the severity of the error and how well it's preserved. If your coin shows anything unusual like doubled letters, strange edges, or odd shapes, it might be worth having it reviewed by a coin grading expert. One more note. There were special proof and silver-proof versions of the 1996 quarter released by the U.S. Mint for collectors. These proof coins have a mirror-like finish and were struck on high-quality planchettes, including some in 90% silver. They were sold in protective cases or official U.S. Mint proof sets. If your coin looks unusually shiny or detailed, you may want to check the edge of the coin for a copper stripe. If there is no copper edge visible, it could possibly be a silver proof, but that's rare to find in circulation. Most likely, though, your coin is the regular copper-nickel version. In today's auction market, circulated 1996p quarters rarely sell for more than face value. However, if you group them into bulk lots or rolls of 40 quarters, some collectors or resellers may offer a slight premium. But as a single coin in fine condition with scratches, its real value lies more in its educational and historical interest than in monetary worth. To summarize, your 1996 Washington quarter with P Mint mark was minted in Philadelphia and is made of copper-nickel, not silver. It's in fine condition, shows light wear and scratches, and is considered a common coin, generally worth 25 cents. Unless it has a major mint error or is part of a rare proof set, it's more of a nostalgic piece than a valuable one. Next up, the 1958 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, found in fine condition, showing some scratches. While at first glance, it may look like just another old penny, this coin carries decades of history and remains a popular collectible for many enthusiasts around the world. Let's take a closer look at what makes this coin special and what it's worth in today's market. The 1958 Lincoln wheat penny marks the final year of the iconic wheat reverse design that began in 1909. That's nearly 50 years of continuous production. with the same iconic reverse featuring two wheat ears surrounding the denomination, 1 cent, and the country's name, United States of America. At the top of the reverse, we see the phrase e pluribus unum, which translates to out of many, one. This design had become a symbol of the era. And by 1959, the reverse would be replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design to mark the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the obverse of the 1958 penny, we see the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head is the national motto, "In God We Trust," the word liberty to the left and the date, 1958, to the right. Since your coin does not have a mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which at the time did not include mint marks on 1 cent coins. Now, let's talk about the condition of your coin. You mentioned that it is in fine condition, which in numismatic terms means it has seen a fair amount of circulation. There will be noticeable wear on the high points of the design, such as Lincoln's cheek, jaw, and coat, and the wheat ears. On the reverse will show considerable flattening. Despite the wear, the design remains visible, and the coin still has historical appeal. The scratches on the coin are not unusual for coins that have been in pockets, drawers, or old jars for decades. While scratches do reduce the overall eye appeal and may slightly lower the coin's value, they don't eliminate collector interest, especially for someone looking to complete a date run of wheat pennies. The 1958 Lincoln wheat penny was minted in very large quantities. In fact, over 252 million of these coins were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Because of that high mintage, the 1958 penny is not considered rare, but its historical importance as the final wheat penny makes it a must-have for anyone collecting. The Lincoln series. So what's it worth in today's collector market? For a 1958 wheat penny without mint mark in fine condition, the value is typically around 5 to 15 cents. That might not sound like much, but for a coin that originally cost just a penny, it's still a nice gain. Of course, the value can go higher if the coin is in uncirculated condition or has vibrant red luster from being well preserved. Some mint state red examples of the 1958 wheat penny can sell for $5 to $25 or even more, depending on the grading. Even more valuable are error varieties from 1958, especially the 1958 doubled die obverse. This rare and highly sought-after error features noticeable doubling of the date and lettering on the obverse. Only a few dozen examples of the 1958 doubled die have been authenticated, and these coins can fetch thousands of dollars at auction, with prices ranging from $5,000 to $100,000, depending on grade and eye appeal. While your coin doesn't seem to be one of those rare errors, it's always a good idea to inspect old coins carefully under magnification. You never know what surprises you might find. Let's also touch on the composition of the 1958 wheat penny. Like other pre-1982 Lincoln cents, it is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Because of the high copper content, the coin has intrinsic metal value, and in fact, the copper melt value is often more than 1 cent. Although melting pennies is illegal in the U.S. under current regulations, still, many collectors and investors hold on to copper pennies in bulk for long-term value. Next up, where we take a deeper look into the fascinating world of U.S. coins and uncover their value, history, and hidden details. In today's video, we're turning our attention to a 1982 Washington $quarter coin with a P mint mark. The coin has a silver-like color, is in very fine condition, and shows some scratches from circulation. Whether you're a coin collector, a hobbyist, or simply someone interested in coin values, this video will give you all the essential information you need about the 1982 quarter. Let's begin with the background. The Washington quarter was introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, The obverse of the coin features a left-facing profile of President Washington, along with the words Liberty, In God We Trust, and the year in this case, 1982. On the reverse side of the coin, we see the classic eagle design, a bald eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows and an olive branch beneath it. This traditional design was used until the start of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. The P Mint mark on your coin tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the main production facilities of the U.S. Mint. In 1982, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 500 million quarters, a lower number than in some previous years, but still a high enough mintage to make this coin common in circulation. Now, let's talk about the coin's appearance. You mentioned that it has a silver color, which is normal for quarters produced after 1965. However, it's important to note that this coin is not made of real silver. After 1964, the U.S. Mint stopped using 90% silver in its quarters due to the rising cost of silver and transitioned to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This means the coin has a solid copper core with an outer layer made of a copper-nickel alloy, which gives it that familiar silvery shine. So, while it looks silver, it contains no actual silver content unless it's a special collector's edition, and those would not typically have been found in circulation. Let's move on to condition. The coin you have is in very fine condition, which in numismatic grading refers to a coin that has clearly circulated but still retains most of its design elements. The major details, such as Washington's hair and facial features, are worn but still visible, and the eagle on the recolage and the eagle on the reverse side shows good feather detail, even if some high points are smoothed out. There are some scratches, which is typical for circulated coins, especially ones that are over 40 years old. These minor marks don't significantly hurt the value unless they are deep or damage. Important parts of the design as far as value goes. The 1982p Washington quarter in very fine condition is typically worth around 30 to 50 cents in today's collector market, depending on overall eye appeal and demand. It's a common coin, so unless it has something unique or rare about it, like a minting error, the value stays close to face value. However, if grouped with other coins in a collection or sold as part of a date set, it could fetch a little more from interested buyers. There's one special point worth mentioning about quarters from 1982. That year, due to budget cuts at the U.S. Mint, no official uncirculated mint sets were produced. That makes high-grade 1982 quarters slightly more desirable to collectors because they are harder to find in pristine mint state condition. However, this mostly affects coins in uncirculated grades like MS63 or higher. Your coin, being in very fine condition, it's still considered circulated and doesn't fall into that high-grade category, but it's still an interesting piece from a unique year in U.S. Mint history. What about errors like many quarters? The 1982p can have rare and valuable minting errors. Look for things like double dies, off-center strikes, or planchette errors. These can raise the coin's value significantly, sometimes into the hundreds of dollars. If your coin looks unusual in any way, especially if lettering looks doubled or the design is misaligned, it might be worth having it evaluated by a coin dealer or grading service. Next up, the 1955 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny, without a mint mark, found in extra fine condition and showing some scratches. This coin has become a familiar sight in many collections, and for good reason. It marks a key point in the Lincoln cent series and carries a story that many numismatists find intriguing. Let's begin by understanding the background of this coin. The Lincoln wheat penny was first introduced in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent. It was designed by Victor David Brenner, and it featured Abraham Lincoln's right-facing portrait on the obverse. This was the first U.S. coin to depict a real historical figure, and it was released to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse features the Nafama's two wheat ears encircling the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the Latin motto E pluribus unum. On the obverse of your 1955 coin, you'll find the familiar image of President Lincoln. To the left of Lincoln is the word Liberty, and to the right is the year 1955. Above his head, the motto In God We Trust arches across the top edge of the coin. The absence of a mint mark under the date indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which, at the time, did not use a mint mark on 1-cent pieces. The year 1955 holds particular importance for Lincoln penny collectors because it is widely known for one of the most famous and sought-after errors in U.S. coinage history, the 1955 doubled die obverse. This extremely rare variety features dramatic doubling of the date and inscriptions on the obverse, making it very noticeable even without magnification. These era coins were the result of a misalignment during the die creation process, and, although only a small number made it into circulation, they quickly became legendary among collectors. However, most 1955 pennies, including the one you've described, are the regular strike, which are still quite collectible, especially in higher grades. Now let's look at the condition of your coin. You mentioned it is in extra fine condition with some scratches. In numismatic terms, extra fine refers to a coin that has light wear on the highest points of the design, but retains sharp detail and much of its original surface texture. Lincoln's facial features, hair, and coat lines will still be quite defined. And on the reverse, the wheat ears will have strong lines with only minimal wear. The presence of scratches does slightly reduce eye appeal, but in this condition, the coin still holds solid collectible value. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 330 million 1955 wheat pennies. That high production means the coin is not particularly rare in circulated grades, but it remains desirable due to its age, historical context, and the association with the famous double die variety. So, what's the value of a 1955 Lincoln wheat penny without mint mark, in extra fine condition with some scratches, in today's market? For a circulated example like yours, you can expect a value typically ranging between 25 cents and $1, depending on the overall eye appeal and demand. Coins in higher uncirculated grades with strong red luster can fetch significantly more often, $5 to $15 or more, especially from trusted dealers or auction platforms. Of course, any coin that turns out to be a true 1955 double die variety, even in worn condition, can command hundreds to thousands of dollars. It's also worth noting the composition of the coin. The 1955 Lincoln cent is made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it that distinctive red or brown appearance depending on how it has aged. Many collectors are now accumulating pre-1982 copper pennies for their metal content, as each coin contains more than a cent's worth of copper. However, it's important to remember that melting pennies for their metal content is illegal in the U.S. As always, when evaluating a coin's value, the best approach is to compare recent sales on auction sites like eBay, check with local coin dealers, or even get a professional appraisal if you suspect your coin has unusual features. If you ever come across a 1955 penny with bold, clear doubling on the date and lettering, it's worth taking it to a professional grader to authenticate. You might just have a treasure in your pocket. In conclusion, the 1955 Lincoln wheat penny. Next up, where we explore the fascinating world of U.S. coins, one coin at a time. In today's video, we'll be taking a close look at the 1965 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that often sparks curiosity among collectors and casual finders alike. The coin we're discussing today has no mint mark, has a silver-like appearance, is in fine condition, and has some scratches from circulation. Let's break down the history, composition, and current market value of this iconic coin and find out whether it's something special or simply a well-traveled piece of American change. Let's start with some history. The Washington quarter was first issued in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. The coin features a portrait of Washington on the obverse, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. On the reverse, the design shows a bald eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows and framed by olive branches symbolizing both strength and peace. These designs became instantly recognizable and remained in use until the 50 state quarters program began in 1999. Now, let's talk about the year. 1965, a critical turning point in the history of U.S. coinage. Until 1964, quarters were made from 90% silver. However, due to rising silver prices and a national coin shortage, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision. Beginning in 1965, quarters were no longer made with silver. Instead, the Mint adopted a clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between layers of copper and nickel. The result was a coin that maintained the same size and appearance as its silver predecessor, but without any silver content. That's what makes 1965 quarters so interesting. They look silver, but they are actually copper-nickel clad. Your 1965 quarter has no mint mark, which was typical for coins minted in Philadelphia at that time. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark on quarters in 1965, and neither did the Denver Mint. This was part of the Mint's effort to discourage coin hoarding during the changeover from silver to clad coinage. Because of this, all 1965 quarters, regardless of where they were minted, minted to peer, without a mint mark. Now, let's consider the condition of your coin. You mentioned it is in fine condition, with some scratches. In numismatic terms, fine means the coin has circulated and exhibits noticeable wear, but the main design elements remain visible. Washington's profile and the eagle on the reverse are still clear, though worn down. Fine condition is typical for a coin that has been in pockets, registers, and coin jars for decades. The scratches are consistent with this level of wear and don't significantly impact its baseline value. So how much is your 1965 quarter worth in today's market? Since these coins were produced in extremely high numbers, over 1.8 billion were minted, they are not rare in general circulation. A circulated 1965 Washington quarter in fine condition typically carries a value of 25 cents, or face value. However, in some cases, people confuse these coins with pre-1965 silver quarters due to their color and age. Remember, only quarters minted in 1964 and earlier contain 90% silver. Your 1965 coin does not contain any silver, despite its silvery shine. That said, there is one interesting exception that's worth mentioning. A very small number of 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchettes from 1964. These error coins are incredibly rare and can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition. These silver error quarters weigh 6.25 grams, while standard copper-nickel 1965 quarters weigh 5.67 grams. So if you have a precise scale at home, you can weigh your coin to see if it's heavier than normal. If it is, it may be worth having it authenticated by a professional grading service. Beyond that rare error, 1965 quarters are generally collected as part of date runs or for historical interest. While they don't hold high monetary value in circulated condition, they mark the beginning of a major change in U.S. coinage, and, for that reason, they're still a valuable part of any educational or beginner's collection. To sum it all up, your 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark is made of copper-nickel, not silver, and was minted during the first year of the clad coinage era. In fine condition with some scratches, its value is typically 25 cents, lest it turns out to be one of the rare silver planchette errors. It's a common coin, but a historically significant one. Thank you for watching and being part of our growing community of coin enthusiasts. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to give us a like, Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below with your own coin finds. You never know, your everyday pocket change might hold a story worth telling. Until next time, happy collecting.